Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to the Short Pint channel. Alright, so today is gonna be my very first input into this channel. It's brand new and it's gonna be a topic on archery. Now, I am basically a bare bow archer, but I do indoor competitions and indoor training. I don't do field archery. And today is gonna be an introduction of how I started and just hopefully a brief story to how I got into it. I hope this video log doesn't go in more than half an hour, but if it does, just bear with me. It's an introduction. I've been doing archery since I was 15 years old. I'm 34 this year. Sorry to tell you my age, but I am not an experienced archer. Basically, when I started off archery, it was in high school, and it was only for 1 year. My background is that because my parents used to move around a lot within the country, so I didn't get a chance to really get well trained into archery in school. Therefore, I only did it for 1 year. I gave it up after that because I had to move. It was an off and on situation where I ended up then going to archery centers, or you call it arcade centers that do arcade archery. And when you go into these kind of arcade archery centers, you don't actually get a chance to really train because you gotta pay for these kind of places for entry, and you only be given a certain amount of arrows and a crappy bow that isn't suited for you. It could be a very light poundage bow and it maybe doesn't work for you. I remember pulling at least about 25 pounds to 27 pounds, and it was very light for me, and it was just for the fun of it. So you pay about $10, you enter, you get 12 arrows, you're done with those, you go out. If you want to continue, you're going to pay another $10. You shoot, you're done, you go home. So I was doing that in high school for just about 2 years of, sorry, not high school. I was doing it in college for about 2 years before I graduated and left that place. And I never did archery ever since. But there was still the need to want to shoot arrows, so I started learning how to make my own out of PVC pipes. And I started shooting styrofoam boxes just for the thrill of it. But I never got a chance to actually get into archery because I couldn't find a center that could actually train you or to literally have a little bit of coaching before you actually improve yourself. By the time I started working, archery was no longer in my thought, so I ended up not doing it for a while until one day I drove by a shop in town that actually showcased a lot of bows and arrows, and it was actually a shop for hunting bows, and I was just curious to know what they had. So I got into that store, and I got to know the owner there, and he started introducing me to archery again. I told him I'm looking for a place to actually train or at least shoot arrows and build a skill and to actually enjoy a sport, because I'm not actually a person who enjoys sports. Really, I'm not. I didn't like badminton. I was forced into it, but I didn't do it. I played a little bit of tennis, but I wasn't a guy who loves to run around, so that explains the size. But I loved archery because it was not very competitive. It wasn't aggressive. It doesn't make you run around a lot, but it made you calm, and it made me calm, and it taught me more patience, focus, and just something that I could get my mind off, other than work and a busy lifestyle. So I got to know this owner from from that hunting shop, and he told me that they have a small room upstairs that they built for archery practice, and I could give it a try. Now my first thought was I need to get a bow. Problem with this situation was that to buy a bow it costs a lot where I'm from. Easily a few $100 just for a riser and a few $100 more for the limbs, and combine all that together you pay about 2 to 3K. So I had to resort to going online to get my bow, and what happened was I fell upon a hunting bow that cost me less than $100. So I started with that, a very cheap bow. The riser was made of wood, and the limbs were fiberglass. Now it looked nothing like a recurve bow, but it just looked like a stick with a string. And I just started with that. It was a 40-pound bow, because I thought I could pull a 40-pound, which I could, but I got kind of tired after a while because of the weight that it had on the draw. So I started going to the center again. It was another $10 for an hour or two to shoot, but you could use your own arrows. You could bring your own bow, and I did. I started with fiberglass bows, fiberglass arrows, which was super cheap. It was like $50 for 12 pieces. So I brought that, and I paid about $25 for a very simple quiver. I wish I still had it, but I think I threw it away. It was a very simple canvas quiver, nothing cool about it. It was just a simple piece of cloth, no pockets, no extra compartments, and I kind of stayed on that for a couple of years. I was in like my late 20s, about 28 probably when I started, and I went to this place to do it for a while, but it didn't last for 2 years exactly, because by the second year, the owner of this so-called archery shop, which sold all these hunting bows and stuff, told me that they were moving. And when I asked them where, it was still within the same state, but it was somewhere much further. So I told them I'll try to commit, but I didn't, because I only committed for about 2 weeks, and I gave up because to drive to their center now is a distance. It used to be very near, but it's like super far now. It takes me about 45 minutes just to get to their place, and then 45 minutes back again. So then it got me stuck. I ended up not doing archery again, and my bow was left abandoned. I kind of retired it in my closet, and I didn't start anymore. About 2 to 3 years then, I was about 32 at that point. I found out a new center opened just 10 minutes away from where I lived, and I started going there. Found out it was an actual training center. It was not a club, to be exact, but it was a proper place. It was an indoor archery. It was properly set up. They had 5 meters for kids, 10 meters target butts for beginner archers, and they have 18-meter target butts for people who really want to compete or really want to test their capabilities. And the law here is that in indoor archery, you're only allowed 18 meters. I guess in the FITA, archery bureau, whatnot, they also play about 18 meters. Field archery, where you go do it outdoors, you get 20, 30, 40, 50, 70 meters and all. So indoors, maximum is 18 meters. So I got there, I started again. It was $10 an hour. I made friends with the coach that actually owns that place. And he took a liking to me, saying that I was really someone who had a passion for archery. Now, I was still using that bow that I retired earlier on, and he told me it was time for me to kind of, if I'm really serious into it, get a proper bow. And I did. I did get a proper bow. It was a recreational, not an ILF bow, but a recreational bow that used screws to lock the limbs in. I paid about $200 for a whole set. The bow, the limbs, strings, we called it the the Mediterranean three-finger finger tag, which with the two under and the one finger on top. And they gave me a guard, and I brought it. The coach looked at me and said, "Okay, you got yourself well equipped. You're kind of ready for it. Arrows are all there." I was still using fiberglass arrows at that point. He said, "But there's only one problem. You got a suitable poundage for you, but you got a short bow." So I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yep, you're holding a 23-inch bow with a long limb, which is then in total a 68-inch bow. Problem is that because it's too short for me, I'm a 176 centimeters person, I'm 5'9". Using a 68-inch bow will crack on me." So I told him, what do I do? He said, "If you save up for a bit more, try and get something that is at least a 25-inch riser with long limbs." So I did that. While I was saving up, I trained in that center. It's just 10 minutes away from where I live right now. And the name of that club is called Ansal Archery. It's owned by a very good friend. He's a good friend to me now. He's like a brother to me. He's a coach, and he guides me. So it was then and there did I actually fall in love with archery, and I literally picked it up as a permanent sport. It was then and there also that I wanted to get into bare bow category, in which case then I started training in bare bow. I started understanding what bare bow was about. I understand what the shot process was all about. I started learning what anchor points were, reference points. Started shooting at a 10-meter target board, and about 3 months later on, I moved to 18 meters. Once I reached that point, I saved up just enough to then push myself to get a 25-inch bow, 25-inch riser. But I had to switch up my limbs. But when it came to me, I was playing a 38-pound draw weight, but the bow was still 68 inches. The bow that I switched to, it's with me, but technically not. It's the pandemic right now. We're going through COVID, so the club is closed temporarily, and my bow is left there. And if I had it, I would show it to you. I went through a lot of upgrades to kind of understand archery, bare bow archery especially. And now I've actually gotten into wanting to get an ILF bow, because that's what everybody's into now. And we're going to do a little bit of an so-called unboxing and review today, because I would review my old bow, but it's there at the club, so I can't take it out. But I've got with me my entire set. I've been in this archery club for the past, counting this year, about 4 years now. And since the pandemic, I couldn't really go. I was there last year, but when the pandemic started again and they started locking down the country, I had to end up bringing my stuff back. I have not gone for archery ever since. So I've got my stuff here. This is how far I've gone to actually have a proper bag for gear, with an actual arrow tube on the top. So this is by Legend. This brand is by Legend. They don't hold a huge brand. They usually have a big print on like their quivers and stuff, but here it's just pure red. So I got this whole bag set. So this is my Legend archery pack. And it has about 3 compartments here. I've got spare arrowhead points. I've put things like extra knocks. Yeah, I've got an arrow string, bow stringer. Sorry, arrow stringer, bow stringer. And then the arrow points in here. I've got some tools in there. I don't want to pull it out because it's upside down to pour everything out. This is my quiver. So let's start with that. Back down there. So this is my own quiver. This is a field quiver, and how you tell the difference is field quivers, when you put the arrows in, they face the fletchings or the veins face backwards, where it faces backwards. I used to own a target quiver, the heat quiver, but it was kind of loud, so I didn't really bother. It has limited compartments, so it's okay. This is my arm guard. It's made of PU or leather. Inside I've got spare tools. So I've got Allen keys to lock things up. And then this is where all the arrows go into. I've got my, I can't remember what you call this, a bow, I can't remember what you call this anyway. It's too long. It's a kind of ruler to measure your the inches between the belly of the bow to the string. Kind of write that down in the comments and tell me what it's called. But I can't remember what this is anymore because I've not been to the center for so long. I've lost all the all the terms. But anyway, this is one of it. Yeah, and then it comes with a sling, obviously, for you to sling around your waist. And this, a lot of people actually buy proper archery dump pouches to kind of put their little stuff in it, but I just use a regular pouch that I bought off of a DIY shop that cost me just about $5. So that's very simple. In here I've got my string wax. I think it's a string wax. Yeah. This is my string wax. Use it to wax your string to keep it maintained so that it doesn't fray so easily. So the string wax. And then here I have 2 things. My finger sling to when I hold the bow, and then my bear bow. What do you call this now? Oh my gosh, my bear bow finger guard. Well, I can't remember what this is called. I'm losing all the terms now. When it's there, it's there. Oh, finger tab. There you go. Okay, so this is my bear bow finger tab. Pure leather. I can't remember if this is buffalo or kangaroo, but it's by D-Cut, so it's a very good brand. I bought it about $80. Pretty good investment. Lasted me for the past 4 years. And then I don't know if I put anything in here. I think no. Oh yes, I did. This is the main bow stringer that I put in my pocket. The one you saw in the bag is a spare one, because at that point I couldn't find one. I bought one from my friend, lost it, and I bought another one online. Found this one bag and I was like, oh, never mind, just use this one, the new one, and just keep it spare. This is a arrow puller. How this functions, I think those of you who do archery would know. You grab the arrow, you squeeze it and you pull it off the target butt. Because sometimes when you have very heavy poundages and it hits the target butt, it goes in and it sticks. If you use the target butt where the back of it uses AVA foam, it's a very tough black foam, and most of the time it's so stiff that when arrows go in, they can't come out. So arrow pullers work the best. So this is it. This is my quiver, my arrow pouch, well, my dump pouch, if you want to call it, and that's one. Next up, I'll show you my arrows. I bought a set of 12 arrows from my coach. He sells it because he has a pro shop in the club itself, and this is what I'm using. These are Elong. The brand is called Elong number 1. I don't know what you call that. It's from China, but it's a very good brand, Elong. It's a Pro 2 carbon arrow. It's carbon, it's 100% pure carbon, and it's a 700 spine. And I actually customized this myself. It came with white and green veins originally, but I switched them out for this. And these are red and zebra whites. Just realized that my coach kind of fletched this wrong. I don't know why. It's a little bit out, but it's alright. He has to refletch this for me soon. So I've originally had 12 of this. 6 of it is actually in the club now because it's under refletch, maintenance refletch. But I can't go to the club now because of the pandemic. So I've got 6 back with me. Well, that's 4 of them, 2 more is inside. I've got 6 of this back with me, and at least I have something to look at because I miss the club so much. And yeah, so that's my arrows with the arrow tube inside, and I have 2 bags. This is a limb pouch or limb bag that you keep the limbs inside. I can't do that. Can't use them. It's empty right now because the bows, the bow is in the club. But this is something I want to talk about today. This is a new one. This came in just about a week ago. Well, actually, just came in. Yeah. This is my. I mentioned earlier that I was into ILF. I want to start on ILF proper bow, and I did. And this came in. The brand is written right there. You see that? It says Sanlida. Yeah. This is a local brand here in Malaysia, and it's cheap. It cost me about $200. So this is the riser. And if you're wondering where the limbs are, I haven't gotten to them yet. They're coming, probably next month. But this is my new riser. It's an ILF setting. Now ILF, for those who don't know, it stands for International Limb Fitting, meaning that you can take a riser from any brand. For example, now it's Sanlida, and you can take any limb from other brands. Could be Hoyt, could be what's the other brand called now? Could be Samick. It could be from Lancaster itself. They got a few bows there, and a few other brands, right? I can't remember all of them. You got Fivix, you have Kinetics, you have what's the other brand I always see very frequently bought. Well, Samick here is quite popular. Oh, Win and Win, WNS, Win and Wins. You can take their limbs, you can just fit it in here because it's an international limb fitting. So it fits any limbs, and you can buy them off for a different price. So this is my ILF riser. I'm in bare bow division, like I mentioned earlier. So I don't really need to fit much on this thing. Just an arrow rest, a plunger, and some weights. So over time, when this one gets modded out properly, well, not modded out, I mean, like, things get fitted on properly, I have a very well established ILF bow. Now, I'm not a competitive archer. I'm more of a target spot recreational person, so just upgrading a little bit is good enough for me because I'm not really into like full on upgrades. And if you're wondering why I'm in this get up, like jersey and a tube banner or a tube scarf, it's because this is kind of my image that I portray when I do barebow. Because a lot of people have this term, they say in barebow anything goes, so you could just dress up and look good. It's like a cosplay version for archery, and this is what I do. I wear a headband like this to get the sweat out, and a long sleeve jersey. Actually I wear a pair of slacks, but it's nighttime and at home it'll be very hot, so wearing this would be good enough, and that's what I do. So archery is something of a focus sport for me. I really enjoy it. Now if you are an archer too and you're just getting started like me, feel free to like and subscribe and communicate with me. We can share tips on archery, and kind of get to know about barebow from each other and the experiences we've had. I've gone into one or two competitions, didn't really win them, but I had a lot of fun doing it because of the socializing phenomenon that you get out of it. You get to know people, you get to know other archers, and it's not a sport that you get into to compete with each other head to head. It's not an aggressive sport. It's really a sport that you really learn to share an experience of the love of archery. And in archery there's a lot of things to do with science and physics, because it's momentum and it's propulsion rates. It's all about velocity and force, and I love that kind of sport. And people are there not to criticize you, but to guide and help you. That's the love of archery. So don't ever take archery as a reason to show off or to kind of put people down, but a reason for you to be a person of knowledge and share it with others. And I would continue to make vlogs as much as I can through this channel, just to share my experience with you. Leave a comment, like and subscribe, and get back to me. And if you've got anything to ask, or you want to ask me something, to get to know each other more, whatsoever what it may be, just drop me a message down below. So this is me signing off. Thank you so much for joining me on the Shot Point channel, and keep shooting the bullseye. Alright, see you then.